right now. Why not? So thanks once again for being available. I truly appreciate it. I've been when did I come across your work? It's probably been a couple of months. It was through a lady called Heather. Not too sure on her
That's my
surname.
sister.
Yeah?
Yep, that's my Atlantean sister right there.
Okay. And I saw your work and I was like, this is pretty amazing stuff. Um, Particularly the stuff on hypnosis. I know you do some, and I've always been totally intrigued by that type of thing. Just like going into someone's subconscious and just making some changes. You know, it just seems like magic. You know, it's incredible. So what's your story though? Yeah, so starting off with David, like where did your journey start? Like your whole awakening and
Specifically with getting into hypnosis, or just in general my journey?
your generally your journey, your whole journey. Well, not the whole, but yeah, how it all started for you.
Yeah, of course. So, it's funny, firstly, just to speak to something you said about how hypnosis seems so magical, going into someone's head and being able to make changes. It reminded me of a quote that I love. It's actually from Alice in Wonderland. And it says, "Everyone wants a magical solution to their problems, yet everyone refuses to believe in magic."
I like that. I like that.
And
note that one down.
Yeah, and so that's very much the beginning of my journey. Ever since I was young, I was someone who was very passionate and believing in magic, not necessarily as like in the form of being an entertainer like, David Copperfield or David Blaine at the time, but I was actually inspired by Michael Jackson. For me, he represented the feeling of magic, and my mom encouraged it. And so I've always been very into the idea and the possibility of magic. And as far as like how that translated into my purpose, like many people, I grew up and I got into what was my passion at the time. I was becoming a street magician. I was inspired by David Blaine.
Right. Amazing. Amazing. Love his work.
Yeah, he was a huge inspiration. He was the one who sparked that fire inside of me that gave me this sense of like, I want to do that. And through that path, I became a magician and I got really good at what I do. And at first I just wanted friends. That was my inspiration. I wasn't looking for my purpose or a career. I just wanted friends because I was a pretty lonely kid and I used to get bullied a lot. And so magic was just my bridge between me and other people. But as a side effect, through living my passions and living my gifts, all of a sudden more opportunities came into my life because I would perform and, people wanted to record me and then hire me for birthday parties or put me on TV and stuff. And then YouTube came out. And so I put out a YouTube channel. So very quickly that blew up and I got more successful in that realm. And then at some point in 2008, when I was 21 years old and I was already pretty accomplished as a magician, I'd actually gotten invited out to Las Vegas by one of David Blaine's teachers, who just so happened to see me on YouTube and was just like, "Hey, I think what you're doing is amazing. I could show you the next level." And of course, as a 21-year-old kid, I'm just like, yeah, I want to do that. So I flew out to Vegas. And when I got to Vegas, it was supposed to be a magic and mentalism training, but there just so happened to be 2 hypnotists as the students in the group as well. And they weren't just any common hypnotists, they were the world's fastest hypnotists. So they knew how to hypnotize anyone in less than a second. And so, it was a 12-year-old and it was and the father. And to kind of make a long story short, they ended up being the ones who taught me hypnosis and how I got into it. I got hypnotized by the 12-year-old boy. That was my first experience of hypnosis.
The kid hypnotized you?
Yep.
Okay.
The kid hypnotized me. And when you get hypnotized by a 12-year-old, it kind of shifts you a little bit, kind of makes you ask some questions.
Yeah.
So he hypnotized me, and his father came over and took away my fear of spiders because I used to be arachnophobic. And this all happened within the span of maybe like 2 minutes. And then they taught me and the rest of the class their technique. It was called the Zap Technique. And it worked on this premise, this idea of confuse the mind, shock the body. So this was this principle of hypnosis, and they gave us a technique to go with that principle. And so I took the technique and I went to practice. And for whatever reason, it came very naturally and easily to me. And everyone who I went to in the room was just dropping into hypnosis on every attempt I did. And I couldn't understand for the life of me why it was working. Like, I understood that this was the technique, you know, you look them in the eyes, you pull their arm, you say sleep. But why does that equal hypnosis? Why is it that now that we do that, I could tell you that I'm Drake and you'll believe it, or whatever the suggestion is?
Yeah.
So that began my obsession with hypnosis, because now I wanted to know everything about the why of hypnosis. Like, why do the techniques work? When to say what's the intuitive understanding? And so I did that. I got back to my hometown of Montreal, and then I became the hypnotist of my town. So I would go to the malls and I would go on the streets and I would just hypnotize a bunch of people. And eventually, at some point, through growing, through, you know, magic and hypnosis, all I was seeking for in my life at that point was fulfillment. You know, like, because as I was getting bigger, so was my ego. So I was a very cocky person at that time. I was very full of myself, you know, because I thought that's who I had to be in order to not get bullied anymore.
Right, got you. Yeah.
And so I started to grow myself. I started to grow my platform, and no matter how much I grew in my success, I still felt empty inside. And so I was just constantly searching for fulfillment. And then for me, my big catalyst moment was actually when I had the opportunity to perform for Drake, who was my biggest inspiration at the time and still one of my huge inspirations. Yeah. But in my mind, I thought that was the biggest accomplishment I could possibly accomplish. And that once I perform for Drake, since that's my biggest dream, that will equal fulfillment. And so that manifested. I performed for him and it was great. You know, I got the shout out on camera and all that stuff. And then I'm thinking the next day, you know, my phone's going to be ringing. Everyone's going to want me. I'm going to feel fulfilled. But the next day rolled around and it was just another day. And if anything, I felt more empty than I ever felt, because now I had no ideas left onto how to reach fulfillment, because I did the biggest thing. So now I'm feeling my pain even more so. And so that just led me to asking a bigger question. You know, that led me to asking the question, okay, what am I not seeing in my life? Because it's not a question of what am I not doing, because everything I'm doing and I'm setting my mind to, I'm accomplishing. There must be something I'm not seeing. So I just asked the universe, I'm like, what am I not seeing? And that question is what opened the doors to all of a sudden these ancient Egyptian teachings falling into my reality and teaching me about spirituality from that lens, and eventually meeting my own mentor who woke me up essentially. I met my first mentor back in 2012, and he was my first experience of a psychic. He was a psychic channeler, energy healer, and I didn't believe in those things at the time. You know, I didn't not believe, but I was super skeptical.
Right.
You know, and you know, and I mean, I'm really summarizing the story because otherwise we'd be here for like 4 hours. But
you're doing good, man.
Yeah, you know, so he was my first experience of a psychic, of a spiritual healer. And what he most gave me, you know, when I went to go see him, he had closed his eyes and turned to me, and he's just like, "We have information for you." I looked at him, I'm like, who the heck is we? You know, I didn't know anything about channeling. And then he was just like, "You think you're this macho, impressive magician who's a celebrity, who gets girls and da-da-da-da-da-da. But really, the real you is soft and sensitive and wants to help people and is designed to be a mentor. And you have similar gifts and abilities like me. And it's time for you to wake up." And while I had no idea what he was talking about in terms of gifts and abilities at the time, what he most gave me in that moment was this idea that the sooner I let go of who I think I need to be, the sooner I become more of who I truly am again. You know, and that was the beginning of me tuning into fulfillment and helping myself. And then, of course, the more I help myself, that's when I wanted to pay it forward and help others.
That's amazing. That's really great, man.
It also transformed your hypnosis too, in terms of going from entertainment to creating healing modalities.
Absolutely, yeah. That it because when I was first doing hypnosis, it was purely for entertainment. You know, I just wanted to do the funny stuff and you know, be that guy. You know, but as I delved deeper into the spiritual world and into myself, I realized that this is a tool that can literally be used for magical solutions, as we said. And I started to use it to permanently heal people's most deepest traumas, to help them release addictions, to unlock their spiritual gifts, to help them find themselves and their passions, and literally anything that your imagination could come up with.
Amazing. So this guy who you saw, did you say he was a psychic?
Yes.
And that's something that you've dabbled in as well, right?
Like it's more than dabbled. It's very much my entire life now.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that.
No, all good.
So, how do you get into that? Like, how do you become a psychic? Like, it sounds like as if you need to go up, I don't know, to the Himalayas and I don't know, do some chanting and.
That's literally what I used to think.
Yeah. Like, it sounds like next level stuff, to be honest. Like, again, a bit like hypnosis. It does seem like superpowers, really.
So have you ever seen the movie Hook with Robin Williams?
I hadn't, you know. I know he's some sort of pirate with a hook.
Yeah, so it's basically the sequel to Peter Pan, the Peter Pan movie. And so just, you know, for people who aren't familiar with it, it takes place years after the Peter Pan movie, where Peter Pan is no longer living in Neverland. He's in the regular human world. He's all grown up. He's married to Wendy. He works a regular job and he has kids. And he's been out of Neverland for so long that he started to forget about his magical self. He started to forget about his childlike essence and nature, and he's become more serious, more cranky, more tough, more professional, and more of who he thinks he needs to be. And then all of a sudden in the movie, somewhere in the beginning, Tinkerbell comes into the movie and just like shows up at Peter's bedroom window. And it's like, Peter, I know it's been a long time. I need you. We need help in Neverland. And Peter's looking at her like, you're a fairy. Fairies don't exist. What are you doing here? And he has complete amnesia for his imaginary friend, for Tinkerbell, or his real friend, I should say. And then Tinkerbell's like, stop playing around, like, we need you. And he's just there trying to figure things out. And then eventually she ends up taking Peter there against his will, like, look, I don't know what's going on with you, but we're going back to Neverland. And the whole story unravels that Peter gets back to Neverland and he's back in this imaginary magical world, and he doesn't really know what's going on, but he sees, the Lost Boys, they're playing these magical games that he can't see with his senses, and he's just a little bit confused. And then eventually, at some point in the movie, Peter finds something that reminds him of his childhood, a teddy bear that he hadn't seen since he was a kid. And when he finds that teddy bear, it reminds him of who he truly was, his true essence. And he remembers, he's like, wait a second. He's like, I used to love to play. I used to love to imagine. I used to love to create. And then suddenly he remembers himself as the Pan, and all of his gifts and abilities come online, and his psychic gifts, so to speak, are revealed. So that movie is very much a perfect analogy for human life and the human condition, where most people, when you're a kid, you're in tune with all kinds of things that you don't realize you're in tune with. You might have called certain things imaginary friends, but maybe you were seeing angels, or maybe you were seeing other beings. You sense things, you sense the world in a certain kind of way that you usually lose touch with as you grow up, because you become more analytical and more serious. And so, like I said, the movie is very much an analogy for that, because it's the same idea that the sooner you let go of who you think you need to be, the sooner you become more of who you truly are again. So the sooner you let go of being the tough you, the serious you, the guarded you. I see it like a radio station. So imagine in your consciousness, you have a radio station, and there's your soul's radio station, which is your true natural self. And then there's who you think you need to be. And so as you let go of the serious you, the tough you, so on and so forth, eventually you get back to your essence and you're like, oh, this is who I truly am. And once you get back to your radio station, all of a sudden the gifts that are always there make themselves apparent. And you're just like, oh, how did I ever forget about this? So they're very much, your psychic gifts are very much your natural senses that most people simply have amnesia for. Because if I were to ask, you or most people, I'm like, did you ever have imaginary friends? A lot of people would say no. And
right.
do you remember having imaginary friends?
When I was younger, yeah.
Oh, beautiful. It's very rare. It's a very small percentage of people I talk to that actually remember that. But what's interesting is that if you look at it now, like, we were just taught to call them imaginary friends because that's what our parents would say. But were they really imaginary friends? Or were you perceiving into other dimensions maybe? Were you perceiving other kinds of beings? These are the kind of questions that we have to ask ourselves. And so this is what I help people do is I using my own energetic gifts, using hypnosis, using channeling, I have ways of attuning people back to their soul frequency so that the lights of their spiritual gifts come back on. And then I remind them of how to use them just like the pan.
That's amazing. I do question though, like why we might have these super abilities when we're younger, and then as we get older, it just kind of gets covered up with the worldly distractions. Why has it been given to us at a time when we are, I don't know, vulnerable and we don't understand it? And then then we lose vision as we get older.
There's two main reasons. One is that most people are conditioned to be someone else. It's like, you have to be more like this. No, like, don't cry, tough up, be serious. Oh, like, make sure you think critically, right? So most people are conditioned to be who their parents think they need to be as opposed to who they truly are. So they go off of their authentic radio station. This is why we have people talking about authenticity nowadays. So that's one aspect. And another aspect is most kids aren't taught to be equipped with the tools to deal with emotional pain and things of that nature. And so as a kid, you're super sensitive to everything. You're super sensitive to your emotions and feelings. You're super sensitive to the emotions and feelings of your parents and surroundings. And you're just super sensitive to the environment, like, this place doesn't feel good. That's not a logical thing. It gives me the creeps, or, and you see certain things. So there's certain senses that you're attuned to as a kid, but because you're often not equipped with the tools to deal with the traumas and the pains that come, usually as a coping mechanism, what kids do is they find a way to numb themselves. And so to deal with the pain, they find a way to numb themselves and numb the pain and suppress it. But what they don't realize that they're doing is they're also numbing their energetic sensitivity, their energetic sensors that allows them to sense the multi-dimensional world, so to speak. And then they forget that they've done that as they grow up. And then they forget that they forgot, which equals amnesia.
Right. But again, it's like, why give so much powers to a child so young when they're so vulnerable? It's like so much power to a child, like a child. What are they going to do with that power? Yeah, sorry.
The simple reason is simply because it's who you are, right? You are your gifts, you are your magic, you are that playful, magical, creative, sensitive being. That's just your nature. And it just so happens to come with access to your other senses, what people call your sixth sense. And there's also a 7th, 8th, and 9th, and so on and so forth. So when you come into this world, you're pure, you're perfect, you're authentic. And so you just have access to you, and that happens to come with other things. Right. But again, it's like when you go through pain and whatnot, you start to lose touch with it. But the idea is that you also have the opportunity to go through the path of remembering. So, for example, in my case, because I also went through a path of amnesia, of forgetting, and then I went through the path of refinding myself and refinding my gifts, that taught me deeper levels of compassion for others who lost themselves. That taught me to have more sensitivity to people who might be going through things. So it serves purpose for us to go through the pains we go through. And it also allows us a more practical way of helping others reclaim themselves so that we could just go through the joy of remembering ourselves. It's part of the game of the human experience.
Yeah. What's the story between both of you? How did you both meet? Yeah, you're
How much time do you have?
I'm good.
So we met over a decade ago when during the part of the story where he was talking about being this magician and hypnotist with a lot of ego in his early 20s. And so that's when we met through common circles of friends. And we were both kind of in the nightlife industry. I was a bartender back then and studying, and I just thought he was super dope, but super cocky at the time. And that's kind of where we became friends, acquaintances. And our friendship really truly began only in 2014 when we reconnected after disconnecting for a long time. And for me personally, like reconnecting with him was my own personal awakening at that time. And then it's through that we kind of just found each other as best friends, and then went through, I want to say, seasons of being lovers and best friends, and then back to being best friends, and then now here we are. That was a very shortened version.
We very much had a path of, because we've known each other for over 10 years. That's why it could be a little tricky to summarize. But at some point, our path, it became clear that we had the opportunity to help each other grow in love. Mm-hmm. And that we could be each other's love training partners, so to speak. And that she could help me become a better man, and I could help her become a better woman. And when that inspiration was present, this was about 2 or 3 years ago, it was also very clear to me that in that moment that she wasn't the one for me. And so, and which served purpose to have that, that clarity, because, we need to go through certain things. So I had communicated from the beginning that I see this potential that we could grow together in certain ways, and that we could be each other's love training partner. And it's clear to me, like, I've been talking to my wife telepathically for a number of years, which is a whole other story, which I'm sure you'll have questions. But I had been talking to my wife telepathically for a number of years. So I just wanted to be clear with her so as not to make any mixed signals that, look, this is the truth. This is my clarity. And, and I see this potential for our growth. Are you down to grow in these ways with me? And so, and we were both down. Mm-hmm. And so that began our path of our love story. Mm-hmm. And then eventually led to us going through some very drastic and significant shifts in who we are as beings, mm-hmm. in embodying love more deeply. And on my case, it was, you always hear people talking about, like, finding the one, right? I want to find the one. And that was a thing for me too. I was like, I want to find the one. And then at some point, someone had told me, it was another psychic actually, she had told me, you are the one that you've been looking for. And when she said that, I had heard it before and I just thought it was a pretty quote, but for whatever reason, this time it hit me differently. And so my journey was getting to this point of really experiencing and embodying that I am the one that I've been looking for, connecting to that one within, so that I'm not externally looking for something to satisfy an inner feeling. I wanted to be fulfilled first. I wanted to feel whole first. And then it was only once I fully embodied the love within that I saw her as a reflection of my love that I couldn't have seen before.
That's magical. Wow. That's really interesting, though, because I think a lot of people do actually need to go through that, just generally speaking. Get to know yourself first before you get in a relationship. You got people, they get in a relationship and, naturally you're going to have disagreements, which can turn into nasty arguments. And you both might be arguing over stuff, But if you don't really understand yourselves, you might not even know the reason why you're arguing. So you're not really going to get to a proper resolution.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is why, you know, the ancients used to say how the three qualities that you must cultivate inside of yourself in order to sustain an everlasting relationship is total harmony, fulfillment, and a sense of deep purpose. And total harmony doesn't mean that you're happy-go-lucky all the time. It just means that you could be in harmony even when there's disharmonies happening. So you're not blaming or projecting onto the other person. You're just harmoniously dancing and looking for where the expansion point is, where the alignment is. So it's cultivating those three qualities that allows you a much more easeful way of exploring with your partner.
Yeah. Makes total sense. Do you practice past life? What do they call it? Past life regression?
Yeah, I used to. And well, before I go into that, because it's been tickling my mind. I just want to make sure that I satisfied your question before about why kids are given this kind of power, because I do feel like it is a very important question. And if yes, so did I satisfy the question for you, or is there still a little bit more of a tickle there?
It was good. It was good. It still does leave me a little bit, but they're so young, and I feel as though so much power for a young child, they're not going to be able to. Why don't we have it at a later stage? You know,
How are you perceiving power?
man, like, you know, if you've got all these abilities, like, you know, the sixth sense, as you call it, or, you know, otherwise quoted as, and then as you get older, things slowly start to almost blur your senses, you know, your inner vision and certain feelings, I don't know, certain strong intuition that you might have. They get kind of dampened because of worldly stuff.
Yeah, I would
Why
say
at a vulnerable stage?
this is where it's a great question, you know, and this is where it also depends on the parents, right? Because not all parents, like I had an amazing mom, for example. So my mom didn't condition me out of my gifts. She fully supported me in my magic and whatnot. And so ideally, the idea is to get to a point where we can be giving birth to our children and we're not conditioning them out of it. And we could just allow them to be who they are and continue to blossom without having to go through the trauma and the amnesia stage like many people do. And so it's, you know, when you say like, why are they giving so much power? From my perspective, it's more like they're simply being born as who they are, and who they are happens to come with these so-called powers, but they're just extensions of themselves, the same way that rays are extensions of the sunshine. You know, they're just being their shine, and they have these rays of gifts, right? And so it's more of a question of, I would imagine, instead of it being like, well, why are they being given so much power? I would more look at it as, well, how can we make it, or why are the parents not diluting, but what word am I looking for here? Why are the parents feeling the need to condition their kids out of their authenticity?
Not allowing them to shine and be who they are. It's
right. So it's
almost painful.
Their power isn't the problem. It's the society that is changing, and that's why, you know, we see this whole global awakening. That's why people like you and ourselves are, you know, coaches, helpers, healers, and whatnot, because we recognize that like something's a little weird, and it's not the way the children are born. It's the way that we've been conditioned.
It's the same. It's like, imagine the world if instead of going to school and learning about history and math and all those things, we were going to school and learning about how to be with ourselves, what it's like to process our emotions, what does projecting look like, how to play with energy, or even how to sharpen our intuition, our the access that we have to our guides, to our angels, or like in Lion's case, this whole psychic realm. So then there wouldn't be a question of why is it that kids are given this power. Would just be, well, this is who they are and this is what we choose to nurture. But because it isn't what we choose to nurture, then it raises a question, because we've chosen to put value on things of the mind as opposed to things of the spirit and of beingness in our society. And so, and I feel like it's directly tied with the word awakening in that sense, because you're not going to school and learning how to be a psychic, learning how to tune into your intuition, learning how to manifest. You're really just awakening to who you are. And it's actually the process of dissolving all of these programs, these conditions that we've been taught to be, and get them out of the way so we can truly experience our own magic from that space and then share that with the world.
Yeah. Makes so much sense. It almost feels painful and sad, you know, a beautiful child with like superpowers. The world just says, yeah, I see you got all these powers, but let's condition you a different way, you know.
Yeah, you know, and another way of looking at it is they're, you know, beyond the powers, they just have a lot of love, right? Children are emanations of pure love, which is what the world needs. But people's pain, you know, parents' pain, society's pain, project onto them that know that, you know, love is blind, and false beliefs like that.
Yeah.
You know,
if you do something wrong, love will be taken away.
That's yeah.
Right.
What's your journey? I'm sorry, you're queen. What's your name? Sorry.
Aveya.
When did you you know, discover your awakening?
I was very much when we reconnected, he and I, back in 2014, and yeah, I guess for my part, it was interesting. I was coming from very much the world of just being really heartbroken and kind of unaware that I was really jaded coming out of this relationship that I was never able to make it work for 5 years. And in essence, I basically had, without really realizing it in the moment, but I had told myself that if love doesn't exist, then the next best thing is to just be comfortable. And so I didn't even realize, but I was kind of this aspiring trophy wife at the time. And then just, of course, perfect synchronicity and divine timing, we happened to reconnect, yet I'm now living in California and he's still in Montreal. And it was just in the reconnection of meeting this person of who I thought I knew who he was, which was this cocky, you know, with a huge ego, you know, magician, and then meeting this completely different human being who just was beaming with love and magic and all these stories of fairies and angels and connecting to yourself. And it just immediately like sparked the part of me that the soul remembrance of like, yes, like this is what I know to be true. And all of these pains and these hurts that I'm experiencing are just layers of density that are keeping me from experiencing this magic within. And so I saw his true self, this new reconnection with this old friend, as a reflection of myself, in a sense of who I really knew myself to be, which was so much greater than, of course, an aspiring trophy wife.
Yeah, of course. So no, I'm sorry. Continue.
I was just gonna say, and you know, and we had this very magical moment. I love to share this part of the story because it really is magical, and it speaks to also, you know, the quote unquote power of kids, you know, because so at this point in my life, I was serving as a psychic, as a spiritual guide, as a mystic. Bless you. And that's where I was in life. So my career was being a psychic. And so when we reconnected in that moment, I just wanted a moment. I just wanted a break from the psychic world, so to speak, and helping people. And I just wanted to be a regular human and go to a bar and have some drinks and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, and so when we reconnected and we're hitting it off and sparks are flying and whatnot, at one point we were sitting at the bar and she's sitting across from me. And as I'm talking to her, I see one of her spirit guides show up to her, well, her right shoulder, but to what I'm seeing as on her left side. And when I saw, I'm used to seeing these things, but when I saw this being show up, I was like, oh, I'm like not now. I'm like, I'm just trying to have a regular night. So I tried to ignore it. And so I continued talking to her. And then the guide was just like, we have a message for her. We have a message for her. And so at some point I was like, I'm like, okay, look. And she didn't even know anything about spirit guides or that kind of world. This is all news to her. So I'm like, look, there's a spirit guide that just showed up right next to your shoulder and it has a message for you. Do you want it? And she was like, yeah.
They know to that.
and so as soon as she agreed, the spirit guide came into my body and it started to speak through me. And it basically just started to remind her of what's possible for her in her life, remind her that love is possible, that her dreams were possible, and all kinds of messages, and specifically told her that she's meant to do something with music. She's meant to be in music in her life. And
that was by far the part that just threw me off completely, because music up until this point, so I play the piano and I sing, but it was definitely this like secret hobby of mine where people kind of knew I always had a keyboard, you know, in my apartment, but they never ever heard me play or sing. It was just really my own little thing, and that's all it ever was. Nor did I ever play for anyone. And so when he said that, well, my first reaction was, how the heck do you even know that I play music? Like, for one, and for two, you gotta be out of your mind if you think like I'm anything artistic or that I would even want to share that. And but yet there was something about it that was so left field that it just like pinged me. And well, little did I know that 3 years later, after he shared this psychic message from this guide, that I would leave my career to pursue music.
And now she got music on Spotify and music videos and all kinds of things.
That's amazing. So it's something that you really wanted to do and you kind of suppressed it. You didn't allow yourself to be you. Like you saw it as, it's just a little hobby, but it's something that you really loved.
Absolutely. So it really goes back to all the same things we were talking about earlier, in the sense of like, as a child, even though now looking back, of course, I see how creative I was, how I loved the stage. I loved dancing. I was always a dancer. I was in theater and all these things. And yet in the conditioning of society, I was always taught that those things can only ever be hobbies, that you can never make a life or a living out of that. Especially not coming from a city like Montreal. It's definitely not like the world of Los Angeles where, that's the main thing. And so it was never even a thought, I want to say, until that point. And so from obviously after our reconnection, I started to dive deep into myself, and that level of devotion was definitely there. And not only that, it was just the more I devoted myself to really understanding not only what it meant to be me, but what it meant to love me, is when I was like, holy crap, I'm totally a creative. I've always been an artist. I've always loved the stage. And all of these things were like, would be labels I would have never used for myself. And so very much like the awakening process, it was just going back to the original bloom of the flower, and tuning back into that for myself. So
love it.
Yeah, and then I think this is where it goes back to the gifts of the child, because I just so happened to be in a place where I was in tune with my childlike gifts, that was able to see and perceive this guide that has a message that brought her to her greatest awakening into fulfillment in her dreams, where to go back to like kids having these gifts, if they were honored instead of conditioned,
suppressed,
they can bring through certain levels of information and clarity and inspiration for their parents and on grander levels that can help people quicker, because I could just imagine not that I have any regrets, but I could just imagine, had I not gone through an amnesia phase, or had you not, or any of us, what would high school have been like? You know, would I have actually wasted time going to social sciences and, you know, trying to become, you know, I'm like, no, I would have been so in tune with my passion, and I would have continued to cultivate it, and my shine would have been greater, and maybe you know, it serves for more goodness and joy in the world if it's honored.
Makes total sense. And it kind of makes me think, as Avia was just saying how is it Avia? Avea, sorry. Was saying that you know, during the time when you had this passion, it was kind of, it was almost put down as if it wasn't anything worth going for. I had
or even
that.
sharing. Or even sharing, for that matter.
Yeah. You know, when I used to live with my dad, and I was just passionate about health and fitness from as young as 8 years old.
Oh wow!
And
it shows.
And I don't know what it was. I just wanted to be the fittest person in the world. I want to be fit. I want to be like super fit. You know, I used to watch all the superhero comic, like in comics and all the cartoons. I'd be like, yeah, I want to be like that person. And I remember I wanted to be like a sprinter called Linford Christie. He's a British 100-meter sprinter back in the 90s. And I just remember looking at him thinking, wow, I'd really love to have a body like his. So my dad got me some weights, and I just remember training, and I used to wake up super early and go running around the park and just doing push-ups, sit-ups. I'm like, yeah, I need to be fit. I have no idea why. I just had this in me that it needed to happen. I have no idea why, but I felt like, yeah, it was me. You know.
Were you big into Dragon Ball?
No, I don't think that was about in my time.
No.
Dragon Ball.
Okay.
No. It was things like Thundercats, something totally different. Maybe Ninja Turtles. But yeah, like when I started to compete in 100-meter sprint for like under 18s, I used to go to a few events, and I was doing pretty good. You know, I was getting medals and trophies, but my dad didn't approve of it. He said, like, why are you wasting your time with this? You know, this isn't a real job. Like, stop these hobbies. You know, you can run around the estate, but I'm not paying to buy you, you know, paying for your travel to go and compete over here, you know, running about, it's a waste of time. And, you know, it did crush me slightly. You know, I was like, but I really love this. I feel like I've got something here, you know. And when you know, when that was taken away from me, he said, look, you've got some weights in your room, lift some weights. And that's what I done. I just spent time. I was like, well, if I can't sprint, then I will just lift weights. I can build the perfect physique in my room. So I just spent a lot of my time in my room lifting weights. I didn't get much pocket money. I'd get like £1 a week, whilst my friends were getting like £20 a week or something, because my daddy was poor. And once a month, I would buy a fitness magazine because they would cost about £4. I'd save the £1 and buy the magazine. It was like my Bible, you know? So yeah, like, so I know that thing where it's a part of you and it doesn't go, but you suppress it slightly. You know, you don't go out and make massive decisions on your real passion. I've done loads of dead end jobs, things that I've done my best in those jobs. But I felt like there's something else out there for me. I don't know what it is. And it was not until I was 31 years old that I started to make some really big decisions in my life heading towards the fitness journey. So yeah, suppressed for ages.
Wow.
Oh, amazing story, man.
Oh,
yeah.
No worries at all. But so the past life regression. Have you done something like that?
Yes. So I've played it. I've played in pretty much any realm of hypnosis you could think of. So actually, I'll tell you a very interesting story that I think you'll appreciate. So you know, I'm one of those people who has remembered many of his past lives. I've seen them, experienced them in different ways, and I used to do hypnosis for others to help them remember. And then at some point, I came across this idea that was called life in between lives hypnosis. So the idea was basically to explore what happens after you die in a past life, but before you reincarnate, life in between lives.
Right.
And this fascinated me. It actually started with, it was a book. I came across a book in a bookstore called Journey of Souls. And I don't remember the author.
We're gonna note that down.
Yeah, there's Journey of Souls and there's Destiny of Souls is the sequel. And
Are they as audiobooks as well?
probably, but I don't know.
Okay.
What was fascinating about this book is it's basically a case study, a journal of a hypnotist who had been doing past life regression therapy for a very long time. And at some point, he started to become curious about life in between lives. And so he does this case study in the book, Journey of Souls, where he hypnotizes 500 different people from different walks of life, spiritual, not spiritual, rich, poor, you name it, different walks of life. And his whole experiment is he wants to see what happens when he hypnotizes someone, brings them into their past life, has them go through the death scene where they die, and then explores what happens after they die, but before they reincarnate. And that was his experiment. And what blew him away was that every single person, 100% of the people, all gave the exact same account of what happened in life in between lives and what happened in the spirit world. And so basically what most people would say was that they, you know, when they died, sometimes they would hang around on earth for maximum 3 days, but usually they would go pretty immediately. And that there was a kind of light that was magnetically pulling them and letting them know that that was the direction to go. They would go through the light and then they'd be rejoined by their soul family, which was a little disorienting at first, but then they started to stabilize. And then they're met by, I believe it's called an accountant, who reviews your life with you and goes through all the lessons and all the consequences and all the experiences to see how you did. And then, and then from there, there's, you know, different experiences that unfold depending on what level of soul you are. They would go into different activities before they decided to reincarnate if that was their choice. So I read all this, I'm like, this is fascinating. And if this is true, that should mean that if I do this on someone without telling them about the book, I should get the same result. And
yeah.
So, you know, being the type of person that I am, I experimented. And so I invited a friend over and I put him into a very deep state of hypnosis, brought him into his past life, which I believe was like in the 1800s, where he remembered himself as a milkman in San Francisco who happened to just die on a park bench of a heart attack or something like that. And then when he went up to the spirit world, he was immediately rejoined by his soul family. And his soul family were like, yo, how was it? Was it cool? It was fun, right? It was amazing. And he was just like, wait, what? Like he was reorienting from, you know, it's almost like reorienting from a drug trip. He's just like, what's going on? And as he reoriented, sure enough, he started to tell me the exact same things that I read in the book, you know, about reviewing his life and so on and so forth. And he told me that he decided, before reincarnating, he decided to serve for 35 years as a spirit guide to just help other people by dropping intuitions and inspirations into people's minds as his way of service. And so I started to ask him questions. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, what's your favorite thing to do in the spirit world? And he said, get high. And I was like, okay, interesting. I'm like, well, what's, you know, what do you mean by get high? What's your favorite kind of highs? And he's like, well, there's 4. And so he told me them from his least favorite to his ultimate favorite. So that he said, from the least favorite, he said something like LSD, then something like MDMA, and then something that's like a blend of LSD and MDMA that's not found on Earth. But his absolute favorite high was the human experience.
Wow.
And I was just floored, you know, and in my mind's eye, I'm like picturing like souls taking a bong hit of human and just right. It's like, well, it felt like 100 years, but it was just a moment, right? Like when you wake up out of a dream, you could dream that you were there for X amount of time, but when you wake up, you're like, oh, that experience was real, and there were messages in there that are relevant for my life, but this is who I really am. And so, but that was reflective to what he was talking about, was his experience in the spirit world, where when I asked him, how does he take these highs? I'm like, what do you like inject yourself or something? He's like, no, we consume memories, because everything already exists here and now. There only is here, there only is now. And so he's like, everything that was, is, and will be already exists, including what you're perceiving as Roger Snipes, David Lyon, whoever my future self is, whoever my past self is. And so he said, there's a way that they consume memories, and they go into this memory construct of this idea that seems like this is my new life.
I'm trying to piece that last together.
You asked the question.
Yeah, no. That's deep.
Yeah. Yeah, blew my mind too.
Yeah. So the book you mentioned,
Journey of Souls.
Yeah. I definitely need to get that. That sounds really interesting.
Fascinating book.
Wow. So I think I need to allow that to settle in for me to even come off with any other questions relating to that. So yeah, I'll come back to that. So do you still have a spirit guide yourself?
Many.
Yeah.
Everyone has. Yeah, everyone has tons of spirit guides. You know, you have. I'm going to say this in two levels. So on one level, everyone has their main guides who are with you throughout your whole lifetime. And then sometimes you have temporary guides who are kind of like tutors. So let's just say you're at a point in your life where you need to learn to be more compassionate, you know, because you're an insensitive person, just as an example. Well, you'll have a spirit guide. You'll usually have one or many spirit guides come in who will organize the synchronicity of your life, the unfolding of your life, so that you'll go through certain circumstances and events that will catalyze you to learn more about compassion. And so your spirit guide's job is to guide you to being more you, to show you how to be a better guide of yourself by showing you the qualities that you may have forgotten about your true nature as a child, such as compassion, sensitivity, so on and so forth. So the purpose of your spirit guides, like I said, is to simply to show you how to be a better guide of yourself by showing you how to be more of yourself. So you could really look at them as like your soul's best friends. So to paint a picture, just to give it, this is purely for analogy. Let's imagine, you know how sometimes when you're sleeping and you're dreaming, whatever you're going on, whatever's happening in the dream, you don't question it. You don't question your identity. You just believe you're that person in the dream and that you're having this experience. You could be flying, there could be monsters, but that is real to you 100%. And if the TV happens to be on outside while you're sleeping, what's happening on the TV might seep into your dream and alter that reality into the dream. This is very much how spirit guides work. So again, just for analogy, imagine that your soul, imagine that you're not a human who has a soul, but you're a soul who has a human. Okay, so your soul is sleeping or dreaming that it's having this human experience, just like you would be if you're sleeping. And your guides every now and then will whisper things into your soul's ears that will seep into this reality as synchronicities so that you're at the right place at the right time, finding things that you don't know how you found. And so this is a lot of how your spirit guides work. And they'll communicate to you in the language of inspiration, of clarity, of feeling attraction towards certain directions of like, I don't know why I feel to turn down this street this time, but I feel like going this way. And then you turn that way and you meet someone you haven't seen in 10 years who ends up becoming your lover.
Fascinating. Yeah. How do you know, how do you switch it on? How do you, okay, so I guess we all have it, but for some, it's like, wow, I heard that. Like, okay, keep it down, guys. You know, like someone like yourself, like you can see them. Like, how does a person get a stronger sense for their spirit guides?
Great question. I'm going to put this in its most simple form because there's many different layers to this, and I literally have a whole training for this.
Right. Okay. Brilliant.
But in its most simple form, it's simply by listening to the inspirations and intuitions you receive and acting on them. That's the most grounded, practical way, because most people, when they receive an intuition or an inspiration, they might put it on the back burner, right? Or like, oh yeah, that's genius. And then their mind starts to poke holes in it and give doubts. Yeah, but I would have to figure this out first and that out first. So I'm just going to keep focusing on this, right? So, but what that is, when you're receiving inspirations and intuitions, is it's very pure light energy. It's really, really light energy. So if you're vibrating over here, and this is where you're currently vibrating at, and then you receive an inspiration that feels this high, by you choosing to act on it, not only are you acting on a message from your guides, but you're choosing to embody more light energy, to receive more light energy. And so the more you choose to act on your inspirations and intuitions, you start to embody more light and feel more vibrant and shiny and alive. And so the more you embody more light, you start to step into the radio station or the vibrational vicinity of where your spirit guides are at, and you start to perceive them more clearly. So to give another analogy, it's like, let's imagine the rainbow. There's 7 colors on the rainbow. And if you're vibrating at the 3rd color, and the top color is purple, and purple is where inspiration is coming from, but you're still at, what is the 3rd color? Let's just say orange. I don't know what it is. Maybe
I was thinking
yellow.
orange in my head.
Let's say it's orange. That means all you're perceiving is the orange reality and everything below that. But the more you act on your inspirations and intuitions, all of a sudden, as you go from being serious to more playful, oh, now you're seeing things more creatively. And you do this more and more until you could perceive the purple reality, so to speak, and your senses start to become more fine-tuned and enhanced, and allows you to perceive more of your spirit guides. That's a very, very simplified explanation, but there's really so much more.
Yeah, I'm sure. It kind of makes sense. Well, as you say, I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense. The moment I start acting on the things which come to me, I'm like, which seem very good, I feel even better. And then I want to do more. And then I feel even better, and I feel like super powerful.
Exactly. You're embodying more of your shine. And then so you start, the more you embody light, that lightens up your thoughts, that lightens up your emotions, and that lightens up your reality. So you're able to literally perceive more of the light spectrum.
And Avia.
It's because you're English.
Yeah, that's it. Do you have any sort of special abilities that you're aware of besides the amazing music?
I mean, yes, but I want to say yes, and everyone else also has access to the exact same gifts, but very much within my whole awakening process, and just with the level of devotion that I put into it, all of these things also started to turn on within myself as well. And so I feel like for me, I don't feel like I was actually focusing on the part that you were sharing and in acting necessarily on the inspirations or the intuitions that I was receiving. But for me, it was more so a very sharp devotion to love. And in that devotion to love is where I was able to explore all these different, I want to say, like nooks and crannies and shadows of myself. And it was in the exploration and within I want to say, deepening into my inner knowing, it also helped deepen my connection to not just myself, but to, you know, everything around, to my spirit, to my soul. And little by little, I wasn't really realizing it, nor was it really my intention, to be really honest. At the time, I just was experiencing so much liberation and so much pure joy from just diving deep into my devotion to love, that that all of the, I want to say, abilities were kind of a side effect that I didn't really know were going to happen. And for me, it definitely started with just that. I feel like that was really the seed of it. And then once I had mastered, okay, this is how I understand how to love myself, how to navigate myself, how to dance with myself when I'm feeling challenged or triggered, then I was able to kind of bring it into the next level and start to use it to, I want to say, like, feel into energy in a like more focused and voluntary way versus before it was just like, oh, well, this is how I feel. And then eventually I was able to tune in, not only to because I learned how to tune into myself, then I was able to tune into others. And so very much like what, you know, Lion is talking about, it kind of just came naturally with the package. And so yes, so there I also have the ability to as does everyone. I just want to make that like a very good point that, like, yeah, it's not he and I that can do something that no one else can. But yes, very much so. I can connect. I know my like main guides that I can call upon for guidance, and as well as new ones that pop up in different, very specific moments where I'm like, oh, so who are you? Like, what are you here for? That kind of thing. And they're also, I feel like over time, it also just allows you to do it for others who are in need, where you can tune into them as well and offer them guidance by essentially doing the same thing that you're doing for yourself, but just tuning into their energy in that moment.
Ask that there. That's what I'm talking about. I'd love to be able to do that. Maybe I am doing it sometimes and I don't realize it, you know? Like when I'm talking to clients, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, because I could see clearly in your field, like you do it whenever you're curious.
Yeah.
Whenever you feel a sense of curiosity towards someone, you'll start to notice that you feel them and you start to pick up certain things on them that allows you to ask just the right questions that will open up just the right doors that will lead to just the right inspirations. So one of your access points is genuinely through your curiosity, which is a childlike trait.
Yes. Yeah. So, you know, as you know, I'm into fitness. So everything I do is all geared towards fitness. So from the moment I wake up, I'll do a bit of breathing, meditation. I have some biohacks in my house. I have red light therapy, a sauna, and I do all these things in preparation for my day, you know. And also I've got like a gratitude list, my goals, which I read every day. And I have this sort of like I ams where I speak out. From like a very spiritual person, what sort of rituals do you have? What is very important for you as a daily habit to make sure that you're, spiritually up there, your superpowers is on point?
If you saw my spiritual light body, I might be just as big as you, bro.
No doubt.
So
That's such a great question, by the way. I really like that question.
Yeah, for me, it's always the same. So my highest priority in life is love, inspiration, and excitement. So on a day-to-day basis, on a moment-to-moment basis, I constantly ask myself, what is my highest excitement of this moment? And the reason why I choose excitement, and it could be, excitement is just that really light, vibrant feeling. So it could be excitement, it could be passion, it could be inspiration, it could be joy. But I'm really speaking to that texture of the feeling, that light feeling. What lights you up the most? So, but I'll just call it excitement for now. So the reason why I choose excitement is because excitement is quite literally the language of your higher self. So this is why whenever you act on true excitement energy, and I mean real excitement, because a lot of people mistake, like I want to go do drugs, or I want to, like, as their excitement, but really that's anxiety disguising itself as excitement. True excitement makes you feel expansive. True excitement makes you feel like more of yourself, and true excitement might scare the crap out of you. You might have the excitement to go perform on stage, but all your insecurities come up, right? So I'm talking about the expansive excitement. Anytime you act on your highest excitement, you're listening to the language of your soul. You're listening to the language of your higher self. That's why when you act on your highest excitement, you end up feeling like more of yourself. So you feel more connected, and then you feel more clear, and then you feel more creative, and then you feel more confident, then you feel more inspired, then you're in flow, then synchronicities are happening, and then more excitement is coming in. And so it's very much the organizing principle of our lives, because I want you to imagine you're in a forest, right? And you don't even know how you found yourself in this forest. You're just in a thick, lush forest. And when you wake up in this forest, you just see that you have three options. You have three paths. You could either go straight, you can go left, or you can go to the right. But all you could see is far off in the distance, you could see paradise is straight ahead, far, far away. So to your logical mind, to your thinking mind, you might go, okay, well, logically, I should go straight. Where your higher self, imagine, is the one that is floating over the forest, that has the bird's eye view on your reality, on your forest. And it could look and it sees that you should actually go left. And so what it does is it starts giving you vibrations of excitement, of curiosity, of inspiration. It's like, go left, go left. And as you look to the left, you feel the excitement, and it even reminds you of being a kid again. You're like, oh, that actually looks fun. Because when I was a kid, I used to play on rocks like that. But no, I have to be serious now. I have to be serious because I have to get to paradise, right? And so, but what the higher self can see is that if you do go straight, what you can't see from where you're currently standing is that if you go far enough, you're eventually going to hit a cliff. And you're going to be like, and you're going to get frustrated and get stressed. And then you're going to have to backtrack or find a whole way. Whereas had you acted on your excitement, your higher self can see that it's actually going to get you to paradise quicker. So the opportunity is, instead of you having to figure things out, you get to tune into where things are already figured out for you. And so that's the benefit and the bliss of excitement. Is it's so much more than just excitement. It's literally the magic of your life compiled into a kit for you, so that all you have to do is act on it. And yes, you're going to have to face your fears and your insecurities and limiting beliefs, but that's your only part of the work. And so that's my ritual, is with every breath to act on my highest excitement, my highest joy, my highest inspiration, because I know that's me tuning into where things are figured out for me. And that's also what allows my life to be effortless, because I've always been someone who doesn't believe in pushing or working your ass off or stress or anxiety. I've always believed in living entirely through flow, entirely through synchronicity, entirely through inspiration. And this is the science of doing it. This is what we call living magic instead of living struggle.
I really love that. I do find that a lot of days I don't necessarily have that excitement. I do stuff because I feel this needs to be done. When people ask me, oh, what motivates you to do stuff? Sometimes I just do it because it needs to be done. I know that no one else is going to exercise my body for me. I have to do it. I'll wake up at 4 o'clock and I'll sit there for a second. I'll be like, oh. Okay, let's go. And I do, I feel great afterwards when I'm doing certain things. You know, if I go for a 10-mile cycle, 12-mile cycle, come back, do some resistance training while everybody's still asleep. And I feel great knowing I've done it. But I don't do it because I feel excited.
Right. Well, this is where it also depends. Everyone has different priorities in their life, right? For me, my priority is feeling amazing, feeling magical, because I know that from feeling magical, I will create magical things and act in magical ways. Other people's priority is productivity, you know, just to get shit done. And both are equal. It's simply a priority choice. So there's always ways to ask yourself, how can I do this in a more fun way? How can I make this more exciting? How can I make this more fun? So for you, it might be, well, I wouldn't, you know, I'd like it better if I did it outside instead of in my garage, as an example, you know. So it does matter on what your priorities are. And also it's also trusting that if you do act on your excitement, your higher self that's floating above the forest knows everything that you want to get done. It is inclusive of it. And so when it gives you excitement, it's not making you forget about certain things. It's just showing you a way to get it done more fun, so that by the time you get to, let's say, the workout, you can have more excitement in your system and get a better workout in. You know, a perfect example of this is, I remember years ago, in I think maybe 2012 or 13 or something, I woke up, and as soon as I woke up, all that was filling my mind was have tos. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this, I have to do that. And, you know, I have to get back to these clients, I have to send these emails, so on and so forth. And as my mind was running, I recognized, I'm like, okay, wait, have to is the energy of the mind. Have to is the energy of the limited mind that could only see so far, that can only see how things are happening and how things have happened. It has no idea how things are going to happen. So I stopped, I recognized, I'm like, okay, this is the energy of have to. What do I feel like? Feel like is the energy of the soul. And so when I tuned into what I feel like, I'm like, honestly, I just feel like getting a bowl of cereal and watching an episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And that was my truth at the moment. And I was just like, and when I felt that, I'm like, no, that's unproductive. I'm like, I have a deadline, I have to get these things done. But I decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna practice what I preach over here. And I'm gonna see if this whole excitement thing actually really works. So I listened. Even though I chose to invest in my soul instead of my limitations, and I got the bowl of cereal, and I put on an episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air on Netflix. And because I was watching it and it made me laugh and it brought joy into my body, it brought my vibration from here to here. So now I'm feeling better, I'm feeling more light. And then I asked myself again, I'm like, okay, now what do I feel like doing? And immediately I'm like, well, now I really don't feel like doing my work. I actually just want to watch another episode of Fresh Prince. And again, my mind kicked in, that's unproductive. I'm like, no, we're trying this. So I watched another episode, again, more joy, more laughter, vibration from here to here. And then I was like, now what do I feel like doing? And then I was like, you know what? I really feel like just going for a walk, because it's a nice sunny day in Montreal and that doesn't happen very often. And you know what? That's what I'm going to do. So I went for a walk and the sun was beaming on me, which just made me feel like slowed down, made me feel more grateful. And so my vibration was going from here to here to here to here until I got into the vibrational vicinity of where inspiration lives. And so as soon as I hit a certain vibrational peak, all of a sudden inspiration dropped into my mind. And then I was just like, oh, I'm like, that's how I could do those things that I have to do. And then suddenly my have to's turned into a feel like, and I felt excited to go do the things that I had to do. And I got it done quicker, more effectively, more effortlessly, and more efficiently. So this is what I mean when I say your excitement is inclusive of everything that needs to be done. It's just leading you towards doing it in a much more soulful way.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I've been in situations like that as well. I'm thinking there's probably lots of people out there that would love to be able to, you know, tune into their higher self and do things with great energy. And there's loads of people that don't have good energy, you know, they're constantly on, you know, they live on low vibration. what would you say for those people to help them out the gutter?
Man, there's so many different things that could be said just for so many different situations. One, the most important thing is to recognize that the importance of not putting judgment on your emotions, not judging what you're feeling. So and not resisting what you're feeling, because there's no such thing as bad feelings and good feelings per se. There's just authentic feelings. But if we're feeling frustrated and then we're frustrated that we're frustrated, or irritated that we're irritated, that just creates more static inside your body. So the first thing is to recognize that it's okay to not be okay. And that will soften and dissolve resistance and self-judgment. And it's an act of self-compassion. And so it's recognizing that it's okay to not be okay, and to take a moment to actually just be with yourself and to, as best you can, dissolve any resistance or judgment you have on your emotions in terms of like, oh, this isn't good, it's trying to come up, I have to keep it down. That's a judgment. That's assuming that's a bad emotion or a bad feeling. But to let yourself be a space for all your emotional kids, so to speak, to be a better parent, to make space for all your emotional kids to rage, to be happy, to be whatever they are, so that then by releasing the resistance on your emotions, you're also releasing the resistance on greater feelings and greater inspirations that are wanting to surface as well. So number one is be okay with not being okay and release the resistance and judgment you might have on your emotions and feelings. Step two from that point is to be willing to give to yourself and to simply move in the direction of a lighter feeling. Doesn't matter what that lighter feeling is. So it might simply be, okay, I've been trying to get this work done. I've been trying to push and my kids are driving me crazy. I really wish I could take a bubble bath, but I don't have time. That's a judgment, right? But if you simply use communication, be like, hey guys, look, I need a moment. Husband, please take care of the kids, or whatever the situation is. I need to take a bubble bath and do something for me, because that is where the lighter feeling is. Then that is you choosing to go from here to here. And that's moving in the direction of a lighter feeling. And as you follow that thread of the lighter feeling, more lighter feelings will come in. Because as you sink in the bubble bath, stress is going to dissipate, your body's going to relax, your vibration raises, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I feel like reading that book I haven't had a chance to read. You pick up that book, you're flipping the pages, all of a sudden it speaks to exactly what you're going through in your life. And it says a sentence that just blows your mind, like, oh my God, I never thought of that. And your life starts to change, all because you chose to move in the direction of a lighter feeling, which goes all the way back to what we were talking about with excitement. So sometimes when going from where you are to acting on your excitement feels like too much of a vibrational leap, like if you're feeling like just down in the dumps and excitement feels like a cliff to climb, that's okay. Move in the direction of a lighter feeling, because we can always, if we release resistance and judgment first and relax a second and let go of whatever we're trying to force ourselves to do, we can always find a lighter feeling, whether it's to express ourselves, to reach out to a friend and just be heard, to go take that bubble bath, whatever the lighter feeling is, that's what's going to lead towards liberation.
And it's also recognizing that when you're in a heavier state, when you're in a state of like, oh my God, whatever's happening is awful and this is super hard, being in that state and trying to find what it is, what's the next step is, well, for one, it's incredibly difficult because you're already feeling so heavy. So even just having that awareness of like, okay, I feel like shit right now and I'm trying to like move forward and it feels like I'm dragging. It just feels awful. And so recognizing that for one, and then moving towards a lighter feeling, and then doing it again and again and again. And even if you just go from here to here, now asking yourself from this state of being, okay, whatever that was challenging earlier, like, how can I move forward with this in more harmony? It's amazing the level of flow and just the level of greater ease that one can bring to themselves just by bringing themselves into a slightly lighter feeling and then wanting to navigate whatever challenge they're going through from that state. It just, everything feels so much more possible and so much more easeful than when you're in the heavy, like, my life has gone to shit, I don't know what I'm doing kind of vibe, you know?
Totally understand. Yeah, I found myself in those situations myself.
And just to complement that with one more thing is, because sometimes when you're in those states, it can seem impossible for you to think of what's, like, what was it? Release judgment, wait, move into lighter feeling, like, and it might trip you up, right? And so another more simple thing you can do is to just ask yourself, who can I reach out to that will shine love onto me? And that might be someone it might be booking a session with a healer or a coach or a guide or whatever case may be. Or it might be going on YouTube. This is what I used to do when I used to go through things. My healers was mainly Abraham Hicks. I remember, I don't know if you know Abraham Hicks.
Yeah. I've seen his work, him and someone else.
Yeah, it's a female. It's
Oh,
Esther.
sorry. Yeah, that's it. And is it a brother as well or something? It's not just.
It was well, yeah, it was a wife and husband. You're remembering the husband.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, the husband has passed away now, but it's basically a woman named Esther who's a channeler for this being Abraham, and she's the reason why we have The Secret. If you know the book The Secret and the body of work on the law of attraction, that came from Abraham. And so, what I've always done, back in the day, especially when I was going through things and I didn't know how to solve it, I would just go on YouTube and type in what my problem is and listen to teachers. I'd reach out to someone who could shine love onto me so I could feel a little bit lighter. And that's the direction of a lighter feeling. So there's infinite options as long as you're willing to help yourself.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, have to be willing to. I think it's the society, man. You need to step out of the matrix. You really do. Because
Yep.
we're always trying to push ourselves more and more and more. I found myself looking at work, paralyzed, but still trying to work. I'm like, why can't I can't seem to get anything done. I know what I need to do, but I can't move. And rather than moving away, but I end up getting up and walking and coming back and feeling, I guess, feeling lighter. But it's after really trying to force myself quite a lot first. And I think it's shed a lot of light on that to make me realize the moment I feel that friction or that kind of gridlock, just step out of it and just
That's it. And sometimes just letting yourself feel, feeling is healing. This is where I always like to remind people, and we touched on this a little bit before, but your emotions are literally the age of children. That's why you can't speak logic to emotions, right? And when someone's emotional, if you try and speak logical to them and give them the solution, the reason why it doesn't work is because they need to be felt, not solved, right? And so our emotions are the age of children. So when we're emotionally down in the dumps, just imagine that there's an emotional kid of yours that's feeling depressed or feeling whatever. How, as a parent, would you like to treat that kid? Is it to suppress it and just try and I'm going to keep going, we're going to keep moving? No, that's going to make that kid feel even worse. But if you let yourself just be there with that emotional kid without judgment, without trying to fix it or solve it, it's not loving it so that it goes away. It's just, I'm going to love you because I love you. And this is where feeling is healing, and it allows us to be with our emotions differently. And you'll see it very quickly softens, because all those heavier feelings are simply wanting to be felt and heard so that they could turn into more joy and more excitement and more inspiration, because that's actually their true natural state. They only feel that way because they've been self-imposed with limiting beliefs and judgments and things of that nature. So they just want love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that. I really do. Yeah, I feel like I'm faced with that quite a lot myself personally. And I feel as though I do tend to get quite a lot done. And I do have, I do work on, I would say, high vibrations most days. You know, and I tend to give a lot of good vibes, good energy to other people as well that can't seem to raise themselves up. So, you know, I pride myself on that. I like to do that. But the times when I need it myself, that's good, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. You know, and this is honestly why, you know, we created something called the Mystery School. I don't know if it's okay if we talk about it a little bit.
Please do. That I was going to bring that up because I noticed you was talking about that. You was pretty happy in your post, and I was like, I need to speak to you about that.
Yeah, it, you know, it just perfectly complements what we're talking about, because, you know, I recognize how a lot of the time when people are going through things, whether they're going through a problem or they're simply wanting to grow to the next level, not necessarily because of a problem, but just out of a desire, sometimes that challenge is being able to find teachers and mentors and guides who you actually resonate with, who are actually masterful in what they're speaking, and who aren't regurgitating information that they found in books, but it's actually coming from within. So they could actually resonate with you. And so what the Mystery School is that it's like, I've been calling it a Netflix for your ascension, a Netflix for your personal and spiritual growth that also has monthly live events and a support group. But it's essentially a space where you can find the answer to pretty much any problem you can think of inside of the mystic library within. So whether it's depression, there's a video on how do you permanently release depression, you know, triggers and insecurities, how do you permanently release that? There's guided experiences. So it was really this inspiration to offer the world a greater level of service, not just from myself and Avea, but also from my own mentors, teachers, and inspirations and healers that I have a very high standard for. You know, so it's like, if you haven't personally impacted my life and impressed me and inspired me, I don't care how big your following is, that's my criteria. You know, so I really wanted to bring a full spectrum experience. That way people can find that support and help and expansion and fun that they're looking for in one place. And so that's what the Mystery School. And yeah, and it's found on our map.
That's amazing. So there's a few different teachers on there.
So yeah, so just to clarify, so there's the library portion of it, which essentially consists of hundreds of videos that David has put together over the last decade, literally. And so in that library of videos is where you can search for absolutely anything from, you know, healing to spiritual gifts to anxiety, whatever, including meditations, activations, and all those different things. And so that kind of serves as your own tool that you can use for your own personal growth and ascension independently without having to wait for teachers or, you know, Zooms or lives. And then in addition to that, we also have a Light Leader community, which is a Facebook group in which basically serves the same purpose. And everyone actually currently in that group are students of ours who have gone through our training on opening to channels. So literally they've gone through the training of opening to channel source themselves, their higher selves. And so it's just a really beautiful community of just deep, deep love and support. And so there's that as well to support anyone and everyone who is looking for that on their journey. And then the final component is the live monthly events, either by David himself or other ascending masters.
Since when do you call me David?
Because he knows
I've never heard her call me David. Why does she call me David?
I have to call you David in front of other people.
No, you don't.
I mean, maybe he might not know if I say lion. So
yeah, it's all good.
people who've known him since like his over a decade ago, he used to only go by Lion. So I know him as Lion, but sometimes when I say that, people are like, who? What was she talking about? So yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah, so it's very full spectrum in that sense. You know, it's there to be a gift to people's hearts and growth and expansion, and to the planet.
And we made it
Yeah,
like super,
brilliant.
super affordable. So it's just to just even extend the impact and yeah, and the outreach on
What
a
is
worldwide
the
scale.
website? What's the name of it?
It's www.livingmagic.life.
Livingmagic.life. Okay.
Yeah, so you can just remember that living magic is the opposite of living struggle.
Yeah, yeah. And what about if somebody wanted to do some sort of hypnosis session with you? Can you do that via Zoom? Would it work, or does it have to be in person?
Yeah, no, it could be, but as long as you could hear my voice, I could put you in a trance.
Oh, over the computer monitor, that's like, wow.
In fact, you've been in one this whole time. Yeah, no, so I no longer offer private sessions one-on-one,
Okay.
but we do offer service through the mystery school. So through the mystery school is where people will get our direct support, and have the opportunity to have access to private mentorship and things, and like I said, all the other things we talked about inside the mystery school.
Sounds
You
really
can
good.
also, if you're curious just about the whole like hypnosis factor, you can also tune. There's so many meditations and activations that are already available free on YouTube that Lion has done, and he always weaves in elements of hypnosis to bring people in a deeper trance when you're in that meditative state. And it's really incredible the amount, like just to read through the comments on YouTube where people are like, oh my God, like, and I'm thinking specifically of this, well, there's a bunch of them, but the one I'm thinking of is how to have sex with life. And people literally have full-blown orgasms. Yeah, and just these incredible
guys and girls.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't know, like I imagine women maybe, but guys that, you know,
because you're literally experiencing. So sexual energy is literally the essence of your creation, right? That's what created us. So the sexual energy is the essence of our creation. It's the essence of creation of life. So in this practice, in how to have sex with life, what I'm doing is I'm leading you to receiving more of your spirit, more of your essence, more, which is, again, it's sexual energy in nature. And that allows you to orgasmically explode with the energy of yourself. In some cases, not everyone has an orgasm.
Right, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna try that one out. Would I have to clean up afterwards, or just need to prepare?
You know, and so with, there is that one, and the one that I would recommend on my end is there's one that's very popular called Unlock Your Magic. So for people who are wanting to harmonize all their emotional children, you know, all that we talked about, all that might be going through different things, Unlock Your Magic does that for you. It leads you through an experience to harmonize with the inner aspects of yourself and with your essence, so that when you come out of it, you just feel like you can approach the world from a much lighter, softer, more magical space. And it's very powerful.
Is this a YouTube video?
All on YouTube.
Unlock Your Magic is that one, and it's interesting because a lot, and of course, and there are elements of hypnosis in there too. And when so many people report falling asleep, quote unquote, right at like shortly after the countdown, after he does the countdown, and then randomly waking up as he's counting everybody up. And so the way that you know whether or not you were in a state of hypnosis is if indeed you fell asleep shortly after the countdown, and then you woke back up during the count up. Because if you were truly sleeping, you would just sleep through the whole thing and not necessarily wake up. But even for me, I've done it, I don't even know how many times. And I personally don't even know what is said in the actual meditation of Unlock Your Gifts. But I do know that my being is certainly receiving it because I just go into this like hypnotic trance and then wake up kind of feeling really great.
Yeah, so you could either, just pretty much one of two experiences where you're either going to go into a deep conscious state of trance where you're just there and present with yourself and feeling like you're just bathing in your essence and feeling really good. Or you might think that you fell asleep, but for some reason you're waking up right at the end when I suggest that you wake up, and that's because you really went deep into a hypnotic state.
Insane. No, it sounds brilliant, man. Well, look, Mr. Lion, I think we're done, man. I think we're good. Unless there's anything else you feel to share. I think that was just incredible. I know I could ask a lot more, but I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. I mean, I just want to take a moment just to, to thank you for having us on the show. I appreciate you reaching out and just the love you shared right from jump. You were nothing but warm-hearted with me, so I appreciate that. And yeah, man, just want to thank all your listeners and the audience who's tuning in for being attentive and being here with us. And again, if you want to check us out, our website is livingmagic.life.
Excellent. I'm sure a lot of people are going to check it out. Seriously. Thank you. Thanks once again. And your queen, forgot your name. Keep thinking Avia. No.
Avea. That was really cool. That was your closest shot.
I'm gonna send you a pop quiz later.
Yeah. Oh, but thank you also, Avea. I really appreciate it. You've given a lot of golden stuff there. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
No worries at all.
Awesome. Thank you, brother.
God bless you. You both take care.
Yes.